And I think it's part of the stigma that it's a cemetery. And why do I want to go to a cemetery?
Cemeteries, while inciting curiosity with their morbid allure, seldom act as anything other than sites of death. Heavy, overbearing tombstones and orderly lines of graves one traverses only to set flowers upon the last remnants of a loved one. At the turn of the 19th century, however, came a movement to bring life into these places one usually hopes to avoid.
What makes Woodlawn different than a lot of the other cemeteries is we were on the onset, part of the rural cemetery movement in 1876. There's only 30 rural cemeteries in the whole country, and Ohio has 3 of them. So we were part of that. So our design of our cemetery is unique because of not only the winding curved layout, but also the trees, that nature was a big part of this. My name is Patty Tonev. I'm the foundation director at Woodlawn Cemetery.
Adorning and adding to nature, these cemeteries were intended as civic institutions for public use, to allow us to enjoy and interact with nature, sometimes shaping it and molding it, to inspire greater and more human feelings of repose, serenity, awe, and beauty.
It's nature, art, and history all in one as you walk through the gates of Woodlawn Cemetery.
I'm Mike Young, and I'm vice president of the Woodlawn board and landscape architect by training. I worked 24 years with the city and then 10 years with the University of Toledo. The rural cemetery movement started, it's actually started in Europe, and it's the precursor to the modern day park system. In fact, the fellow that was the early superintendent here, the first superintendent here, went on to California and actually started the California park system.
Woodlawn Cemetery was once a lively and much trafficked stop on the historic streetcar system. In fact, it was so popular that the cemetery management had to create rules to keep rowdy parkgoers in check. Visitors would flock to the city cemetery as it was considered fashionable for the rising middle class, who had the means to enjoy the tamed wilderness.
Well, before, when it was built, it was 3 miles outside the city, but now the city surrounds it. So you have 160 acres here, a whole section that's basically a green oasis.
In Woodlawn's 160 acres of landscaped nature, there are some big names among the 65,000 interments and 42 private mausoleums, names you can find all over the city of Toledo. Woodlawn is like a miniature of the history and geography of the city as we know it today.
Some of the names that are here in the cemetery, and the list goes on and on, but probably Edward Livy is one of the bigger ones. The Stranahans are here, part of Wildwood Park and Champion Spark Plug. The Secors are here, Waits, Crosby, Reynolds, a lot of the names that people are very familiar with. Spitzers are here, so most of the major ones.
If you move into a community and you're going to make this your home, well, what makes this community great? What made this community? And you can come out here and get one heck of a history lesson. If you don't know where you've been, it's kind of tough to know where you're going to go. And these people made a lot of mistakes. They did a lot of good things, and you can learn from that. You can learn the part that they played in Toledo that was good, and then there's some things that probably weren't so good. And so it's important to know that and build on it.
Ironically, however, the cemetery is not stuck in the past. The rural cemetery was always meant to be more for life than for death, designed more for pleasure than grief in this life.
How can we stay true to our rural cemetery roots and still keep up with what's happening in the community? And our programs do their events so we can kind of open our gates to bring people in, give them a reason to come here to hear our story. Toledo is a big, small town. By bringing people in, the more people we tell our story to, the more current and engaging it becomes to a wider community.
And Woodlawn has a vision for its future. Administration has sites on urban planning parcels around its grounds, recognizing that its future lies in revisioning its relationship to the city that has grown around it. It is not only relying on burial for its future, but also actively adding to the community as a certified arboretum, a birding hotspot with incredible diversity, a history and art site, a destination on the city's new bike trail network, and symbol of our history as the foundation for a new tomorrow.
I guess what we're trying to do is, in a way, get back to our roots as a rural cemetery, because we got away from that. And we're starting to be what the original rural cemeteries were intended to be. This, like I said, this rural, tranquil place where people come here not just to memorialize their loved ones, but they come here to enjoy the scenery, the trees, the birds, just the peacefulness of the place. So there's more reasons to come here.
The story of the rural cemetery is more important today than ever. Woodlawn means to be a civic institution with civic impact in the present era. As with Woodlawn, the need for transformation and adaptation in the modern world is an issue we face every day. People forget and rich stories fall out of relevance, but rural cemeteries present a way to both preserve and innovate, to memorialize while enlivening and honor while enjoying. No longer a site of death, but of life.
For people coming here and young people coming into town, people moving into town, this is what Toledo is about. This is what made Toledo.